a question for the rest of America. Does anyone even care about Nebraska? Does anyone even care?
Do you care about Nebraska? Because I have a feeling you voted for this. I mean, Nebraskans don't even care about Nebraska.
Last week, I paid $2.45 for gas per gallon. And because we wanted to bomb Iran, now it's at $3.09. This is discounted because shout out Cumberland Farms. Don't we love war?
I'm going to say what everybody else is thinking. There is too many roads closed for the gas prices being this damn high.
Nebraska is set to be the first state in the country to roll out new Medicaid work requirements this week, following federal cuts to the program.
You have to work. If you choose not to work, you do not get free health care. You do not get free health care.
Okay, listen up. We just learned of the first rural hospital shutting down as a direct result of Donald Trump and Republicans' bill. Check it out. And the headline tells the whole story. Rural Southwest Nebraska clinic closes, blaming expected Medicaid cuts. This article was published yesterday, by the way, before the bill had even passed. It's short. It just says a clinic in Southwest Nebraska announced that it's closing due to financial challenges, including anticipated Medicaid cuts. It's shutting down its clinic in Curtis, a town of about 900 people. The Curtis Medical Center has been in operation for more than 30 years, but Republicans, they just killed it like that. Their CEO said, unfortunately, the current financial environment driven by anticipated federal budget cuts to Medicaid has made it impossible for us to continue operating all of our services, many of which have faced significant financial challenges for years. The Nebraska Hospital Association, like all hospital associations, have been pushing back against Medicaid cuts in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. But you know what? Those rich people just really needed their tax cuts, guys. And now, as we predicted, rural hospitals are going to pay, and they're going to pay big. And you know what? So will you and I. Of course, it's not just rural hospitals. Millions of Americans will now become uninsured. And the bill has, in general, put our nation on a new, more perilous fiscal path. Great. That's what you all voted for, right? You voted for jobs reports like these, interest rates like these, the U.S. dollar plummeting. Just to recap, this bill is already shutting rural hospitals down. Poorest Americans are going to be dealt the biggest blow. Our economy is tanking and will tank more. And yet, some of you voted for Trump because of the economy. Hope you enjoy reaping what you sow. As for the rest of us, well, pray for us, because Donald Trump and the Republican Party have just thrown this nation under a bus, the likes of which we have never seen.
Hey, Nebraska, is this you? Come on up to the front of the classroom. I have some information for you.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
Nebraska voted against their own interest. They cheered the deportations without thinking about their livelihood. They cheered the tariffs and the big beautiful bill, but now they're feeling the consequences in real time. Racism is very expensive. So let's get to see more. Please like and have the video right. Let's get into it.
Does anybody care about Nebraska? That's the question that's going around TikTok right now. And to that, I respond with two questions. Did Nebraska care about anybody else? And does Nebraska care about Nebraska? Because you see, God helps those who help themselves. And when you Nebraskans walked into the voting booth and overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump to be president, and now you're feeling the effects of that, this isn't I told you so. This is an FAFO. And I know there are Nebraskans out there that voted for Kamala Harris and did not fall into the trap of Donald Trump. Unfortunately, there were not enough of you. And now the rumors, and I'm having a hard time substantiating some of this, but the vibe that's going around is that Nebraska basically looks to be bankrupt in about 6 months because of the undocumented migrants that are being deported, or just the fact that undocumented migrants make up a large portion of their state and workforce on the farms. And they're not showing up to work because they're now afraid they're going to be deported. So Nebraskans, especially farmers in Nebraska, did you think any further than the front of your face? Did you think any further, or were you just blinded by hate? And now people are coming out here asking, what about Nebraska? Do you guys care about Nebraska? No, I've already answered it, but the short answer is no. No, we don't. We don't care about Indiana, where I'm from. We don't care about Kentucky losing their bourbon up in Canada. We don't care about Jack Daniels in Tennessee. We don't care about the auto industry in Michigan. Are we all going to feel this? Yes, it's going to hurt. The disruptions in the food supply from Nebraskan farmers is going to hurt everybody. We are not immune, but we can't care. We can't care. We have no more sympathy to give. You guys had a chance. We spent our time telling you, talking to you, talking at you because you wouldn't listen. You decided to vote for Donald Trump, and here he is undoing your entire workforce. And when you lose your family farm of 150 years to a private company who's going to buy up all the land when you guys can't pay your bills, that's the state of America we're going to be in because you decided to vote for hate over the rest of the country and your own good. You cut off your nose to spite your face. So Nebraska, we don't care. God helps those who help themselves, and you decided you didn't want help.
Do you honestly believe that a family making $55,000 in Nebraska shouldn't be able to access any TANF benefits? That's your position?
I proposed that number. That's in the legislation, and I think it's a thoughtful approach. And in many, many, many cases, that is very more than sufficient.
If you're a family of 3 in Kearney, Nebraska, making $55,000 a year, you are not eligible under your bill for any TANF benefits, right?
Once you exceed the 200%, you're no longer.
That's what I'm describing. The 200% is $54,640. So a family of 3 in Nebraska, in your district, that makes $55,000 a year would not be eligible for any of these benefits.
Correct.
Okay, $55,000 a year, right? Family of 3 in your district, paying $24,000 a year, so $2,000 a month to rent a home, okay? Paying, call it, $2,400 a year for car insurance. They own a car. Paying $5,000 a year for their water bill, their electricity bill, right? Paying, $1,000 a month for groceries. How many children do you have? 2. I have 2 as well. I don't know how much money you're spending on groceries on an average basis, but $1,000 a month, $1,500 a month, right? $12,000 a year, $15,000 a year. It adds up pretty quick, Mr. Smith. And I guess what I'm suggesting to you is I don't think that the American people would quite understand your effort to prevent that family that's making $55,000 a year in Nebraska from being able to access child care benefits at the same time that the Republican Congress has passed tax breaks for some of the richest Americans in our country.
They say we can't afford health care for everybody, but we pay for theirs, and theirs is top tier. Mike Flood, the representative from Nebraska, he told Nebraskans in a town hall that America just can't afford free health care. He says it ain't no money for it. Question, then how do we pay his salary? How do we cover his health care? You know, that Cadillac, top shelf, never having to wait in line health care that members of Congress get? How do we fund his pension and his perks? Because y'all know he gets government covered everything. So how do we cover that? I'm going to break this down. America has the money. America has the money for health care, for schools, for job training, for affordable housing, safe neighborhoods, clean water. They have the money. What America doesn't have is the will to tax rich people. See, Congress is a tax haven machine for the rich. They design loopholes for their rich friends. And I know you're asking why. Well, because Congress is rich too. They're not struggling to pay rent. They don't even have to decide between insulin and grocery. They're not worried about an $800 ER bill or a $400 surprise at a regular routine checkup. They don't live in your world, baby. Congress creates policy that ultimately benefits them. Insider trading, corporate kickbacks, and tax shelters built like luxury bunkers. So understand, when it comes to you, suddenly you're the problem. You don't work hard enough. You just want handouts. I'm gonna tell you something. You already work your ass off. You are the engine of this country. You work double shifts, juggle jobs, and stretch every damn dollar just to survive. Meanwhile, they sit on Capitol Hill, collecting your tax dollars, right? And they're doing the bare minimum, and they call you lazy. So no, the problem is not that there isn't any money. That's not the problem. The problem is who they think deserves to have it. And it damn sure ain't you. Not unless we flip this whole system on its greedy, hypocritical head. Because I'm tired. I am tired of seeing hardworking people suffer. I'm sick of it. While these clowns in suits collect paychecks for doing nothing. They got money for bombs. They got money for banks. But they don't have money for your health. Miss me with that lie, man.
So I know that when you elected Donald Trump, you decided to put all of your apprehensions aside and elect a person who was clear about his intentions. He was going to get rid of undocumented immigrants, which would cause your primary industry, the agriculture industry, to go down. Then he decided to do away with the farm subsidies, basically welfare, that would just annihilate farmers in Nebraska. But wait, there's more. Those two things are just the tip of the iceberg. I was told from a well-placed source that you guys are considering bankruptcy in the not too distant future. They said 6 months or so. So if you combine all of that bad news with these people deciding to vote against you who desperately need health care, they are and will and have voted for a framework of a budget that would basically annihilate Medicaid in your state. Let me give you a secret. I don't know if you know this, but over 341,000 residents in Nebraska are on Medicaid. That represents $3.7 billion of revenue, of money, of spending that goes to the state of Nebraska for health care. And this is not just health care, just ad nauseum. This is health care that goes to take care of patients and then also goes to fund hospitals in a rural state, hospitals that are desperately needed. Now, this is the kicker. Of that $3 billion or so that goes into the state, the federal government picks up 69%. In essence, only 30% of that money you have to contribute. But the problem is, since you're going bankrupt and all, you're not going to be able to contribute that. You have come into the zone of FAFO. Unfortunately, that map, this map, is going to be your downfall.
You know what they're chanting out there? I just got it. They're chanting one more vote to save our lives. They're chanting one more vote to save our lives. You know, we all know what's going on with this bill and what you guys have put onto it. Whether we're talking about mothers with devastating fetal diagnoses, who you think should be forced to carry a baby to term that has a brain outside of its head. What is wrong with you? Or you're talking about trans children who are 4, 5, 6, who are 16, 17, 18, who can be all ages, but the way government is coming down in this body between a parent and a family and their child and a healthcare professional is unprecedented. It's unreal.
Fun fact, Republicans have had full control of Nebraska since the late 90s, so let's see what they've done with nearly 3 decades of power. Starting with K through 12 education, if you average out their NAEP scores, they are 22nd. Some reports will rank them higher. Life expectancy is surprisingly high at 14th, just over 78 years. Incarceration rate is below the national average, but is one of the only states with an increasing incarceration rate post-COVID. Homicide rate is in the bottom quartile. Firearm mortality is surprisingly in the bottom quartile for it being a red state. However, I will note that they removed the requirement for a permit to conceal carry in 2023, and the data hasn't really been updated since then. It will be interesting to see if they fall off. And you might be thinking, those crime numbers are relatively good. Yeah, you know which state has the highest median disposable income per capita in the U.S.? It's Nebraska. You know how I've been talking about poverty and crime for like the last 3 weeks? Pretty simple. Infant mortality rate is the 15th highest in the country. Maternal mortality rate is the 16th highest and rising, has gone up 10% since their abortion ban went into effect. And they have a legislature that defies the will of the people. The people in 2022 in a public referendum approved a minimum wage increase to $15. Just this year, the legislature dropped that for teenagers to $13.50, saying that they wanted to prioritize businesses. Nothing more conservative than profits over people.
Hey, it's Joe from Georgia. So we're getting ready for the first domino to fall, and we know what happens after the first one falls. Well, the state of Nebraska, the governor, Jim Pillen, has asked the federal government for help because they're not going to be able to pay their bills this year. And here's the problem in Nebraska. They had over a $2 billion contract with the Chinese government to export soybeans to China. Well, out of that $2 billion, they've canceled all the contracts. So out of that $2 billion, $350 million was state revenue taxes. They're not getting any of that. And the governor also goes on to say that because the migrant farmers weren't able to work in Nebraska this summer, that those people didn't pay their taxes either. And the farmers who already have crops in the ground, folks, they've already spent their money. They're going to need help too because they're not getting any money from the contracts anymore. So Nebraska is the first state. And when you look at the Midwest, you're probably looking at Kansas, you're looking at Iowa, South Dakota, all of those places that are large exporters of grains to China and depend on migrant farm labor. They're not going to be able to pay their bills either. So here's the first one to fall. But of course, as we do know, a certain person in a certain house in Washington, D.C. at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, they know all about bankruptcy. I'm sure they'll be able to help.
I have a question for the rest of America. Does anyone even care about Nebraska? Does anyone even care?
Do you care about Nebraska? Because I have a feeling you voted for this. I mean, Nebraskans don't even care about Nebraska. Let me ask you another question. Who exactly did you think were going to work in the fields and in the farms after all of the regular day laborers, people of color, are no longer there anymore? Who did you think was going to do it? Did you think that there was just this army of white workers ready to get into those farms and pick all the vegetables? Now people like you who voted for this to happen are upset that something's affecting you, because what people like you tend to really vote for, it's not the economy. It's because you want to express racism and bigotry, and he was the only way that you could do that. But now it's affecting you. All those farms are disappearing, including that 300-year-old farm. And you want to know why nobody's upset at that? It's because you guys did it to yourself. You'd rather vote to have your racism easily spread across the United States instead of thinking about yourself, because you always vote against your own interest, don't you? And isn't it just like you? You voted to hurt other people, but now when it's starting to hurt you, you want us to feel sympathetic for you. Get the fuck out of here.
Nebraska, why are you so angry? Is it because you sold out for cheap? Is it because you don't understand how politics and finances work? Are you asking for empathy? But empathy's a sin. It's woke. Certainly you're not asking for some kind of a bailout. That would be socialism. Don't look to Democrats or liberals or leftists to step in. We voted for you back in the fall, and now we're busy. We are agitating, we're working, we're gathering together, we're continuing to build community. We're doing things like deciding whether or not we need a new Arc'teryx jacket. We're buying French's ketchup. We're buying Molson Golden and Canadian whiskey. We're making Nanaimo bars. If your farm gets bought by a corporation, I hope they let you work there. Otherwise, I guess you can always go to Florida or one of the other innumerable places where they've deported undocumented workers, and you can get a job there. Take care. Stay safe.
For years, many voters in red states, they were told immigrants and minorities were the reason their life was getting harder. They were told that the tariffs would punish China, They were told that carrying government programs would somehow make their life easier, but they forget that they also need these programs, they need Medicaid, they need SNAP, they need the migrant labor. Because when you deport immigrants, the farms need the workers, the crops need to be planted, the livestock need to be cared for, businesses still need workers. The economy is interconnected, whether people like it or not. When Medicaid cuts are being reduced, the people being affected are not just in big cities. The rural communities are the ones getting affected too. The elderly people, the children, working families, hospitals close, and people delay medication because they simply can't afford it. And when Trump introduced the tariffs, China retaliated by looking for other trade partners, They went to Argentina and Brazil to buy the soybean. And once the supply chains are gone, they won't come back fast, It can take years or even decades. So Maga farmers are going to be affected for a long time because of the consequences of their vote. Many are now feeling the pain that they thought someone else would feel because when deportations were being told, they cheered. When tariffs were being announced, they celebrated. When the cuts were being announced, they applauded because they believe the consequences will be felt by someone else, But policies don't care who you voted for. They affect everybody regardless of who you voted for. And this is why it is important to vote for policies that are going to improve ordinary people's lives instead of voting for policies that are directly going to harm other people, Always vote for policies that are going to improve your life, about how you'll be able to afford healthcare, about how you'll be able to put food on the table, about how you'll be able to pay the mortgage, Elections have consequences, and not many are learning that racism does not pay. But let's hope they're going to make informed decision moving forward. So thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Have a good one. I'll see you in the next video.